Hello, football fans. This is Lefty79 from the NFL Stableford League. The commissioner checking in with the first of a double shot of NFL Stableford League power rankings this week. We got a lot of ground to cover, so I don't want to really beat around the bush here too much. I do want to give a little bit of a Week 15 playoff picture update. Week 16 standings have not been completed yet. I have been lagging behind a little bit on some of that. Just got knocked out for a loop this week with some flu-like symptoms. Not sure if it's the C word or not, but kind of was knocked out for a little while. But I've been keeping track of what's been going on with the posts. I saw Art had a nice stream this morning, and darn it, I was a little bit upset that I missed that. But I did catch the VOD, otherwise known as the VOD, and watched that. And that was an awesome turnout that you had there, Art. And a good win there for Ben and the Cowboys in week number 17 already. But I got things to cover from week 15 yet, and then I'm gonna do a week 16 show either tonight yet, or I'll try to get it tomorrow. I have to get the standings and everything updated anyway, so we'll see if I can get that done by the weekend. And then we're off to week 17, and I'm gonna probably keep the deadline the same as it was last week, because I think people are gonna have New Year's stuff going on, and with New Year's on a weekend, I kind of want to be a little bit more flexible with people that might have family in town, or you might be going somewhere or something like that. So I'll probably keep the Monday deadline for the uh, week 17. So I will try to post the conditions for week 18 for all those that want to hit the ground running and just get it over with. But I'll be a little bit more flexible about the deadline for week 17, as I know we have another holiday weekend coming up tomorrow with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Wow, 2022 is upon us. Let's hope it's a way better year. Not that 2021 was awful, but yeah, we can always improve, right? And that's what we try to do in the NFL Stableford League, is improve and try to add new features to the league. And I hope the power ranking shows this year have been helpful. Try not to be too critical of teams, but at the same time, I'm going to tell it like it is, and I think that's what helps keep the league authentic and keeps people wanting to play. And you can hear my Wisconsin accent every time. And we all have an accent, so at the end of the day, mine's not any different. But at the end of the day, we all have our own quirks and fun things, and I think that's what makes the league great. And I'm just going to dive right on into it here with the playoff picture. Some teams dropped out this week, so I'm not going to mention some teams and where they're standing right now, because they're already out of the playoff picture. And unfortunately, can't have everybody go. I mean, it's just the way the league is set up. But right now, it looks like in the NFC we lost a little bit more than we did in the AFC, as the AFC still has some outstanding things going on yet with a divisional race in the AFC South that's really close and still involves a couple teams yet. But by the time you're hearing this, that may not be the case, but because we're going after week 15 here, it's still relevant that some teams are still alive, but by the time you hear this, they may not be. One of the teams that you're seeing right now on the screen is the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, their road ended this week after losing at Pittsburgh 26-22. Platypus Brigade, our buddy, I believe Andrew, I want to say is his name, not Matthew, but I'll say them both in case I hit one out of two there. But I'm pretty sure it's Andrew. Great player for us in the league this year. New player, new blood. Really enjoyed his streams this year on Twitch. Uh, Unfortunately, the results weren't quite there this year, but it's the first season, and he's lost the last 2 games now, and brings up the number 32 spot in the rankings. The Titans are 3-11 now. They do not change from last week's rank. Uh, as I mentioned, they did lose to Pittsburgh 26-22, which effectively knocked them out of the playoffs at any chance of uh, winning the AFC South or getting a wild card berth. So next, the Titans will play the San Francisco 49ers at home and try to play some spoiler in Week 16. The Niners are 11-3 coming in and are coming off of a loss of their own, so they could be ripe for an upset. Actually, no, they did win. The Niners did win against Atlanta. We'll get to that later. So the Niners did bounce back from their loss to the Bengals, but you never know. I mean, these teams that have nothing to play for, uh, there's always that spoiler factor, and you always have to play that. You always have to take that into account, and we'll see if the Titans can do that here in week number 16, as they would like to get off that 3-win mark and possibly move up in these rankings. As we now move to another team that's been having the struggles lately, it's the Seattle Seahawks of Chris, who are 3-11. They dropped 2 spots from last week, from the Week 15 ranking of 29. So they come in at number 31 after losing at the Rams 25-22 to a divisional rival there, and that effectively knocked them out of the playoffs as well. Just not enough time to make up any ground, and they will end up with a maximum of 6 wins if they can win out. Next, they'll play Chicago at home, who are 5-9. This one could go either way. Chicago just has a new team owner now, who's getting their feet wet, so we'll see what happens there. But just not the type of season that Chris was hoping for. I think now that they've lost the last 4 games, I think the difficulty change might have just been a little bit too much. I mean, with pro, it's really just set it and forget it. It's just rear back and rock. I mean, even if you hit a fast or a slow in pro, it doesn't really deviate that much from your target. It does a little bit. I mean, I know it does like on approach shots, but I want to say when you're driving the ball, it's just you really got to hit fairways on master difficulty. Otherwise, you're always going to be up against you're always going to be against the 8 ball, and I think that's what happened to the Seahawks this year, especially on a tough course that they picked for their home field this year. Might have been a little bit, might have been a hard thing for them as well, because I've played that course, Harrier Creek, and that's not a picnic. That is not an easy place to play, and neither is Seattle for that matter. So, but that might have worked a little bit against them, especially with the master difficulty, and you just hope that everybody had a good time at least, and that you enjoyed the season. I mean, it's a long season, and it does become a slog when you're not really going anywhere. And I do appreciate everybody finishing it out and giving it their best efforts. But unfortunately for Seattle, it's going to be another missed playoff season in the NFL Stableford League, as this franchise just cannot seem to buy a break. As we now move on to another franchise that's struggled lately in the NFL Stableford League seasons, but they had a great season in the Cup after nearly winning it, and that would be the Carolina Panthers of Polecat, who are 3-11, and they're also eliminated from the playoffs after losing at Buffalo last week, 26-23, on the road. And the Panthers dropped 2 spots from number 28. Next, they'll be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home, who are 8-6, and leading that NFC South. So another chance to play some spoiler, get some evaluation done on some players, and just hopefully enjoy the rest of the season without any pressure or any expectations really going forward. But Polecat, I know, has been getting a little bit frustrated with the way things are going with the game, and probably hasn't been really as engaged, and that's okay. I mean, we've all been down that road. I mean, I've been down that road with the tours already, and I haven't played a tour round in like over a month and a half, 2 months now, and that's okay. I mean, everybody has their time where they just get burned out from the competition and the grind, and I understand this season can be a grind as well if you're in a different mindset where you're just not feeling the game right now and not having any fun with it. So, but yeah, as far as like I think a much needed break is upon us here for a lot of players, especially those that aren't in the playoff hunt. I know there's some guys that just joined now that are probably like chomping at the bit for the next season. I won't name any names. Sky Blue Ben. But at the end of the day, uh, yeah, things are going to be happening. It's just there's going to be a little bit of a break time. I think that's necessary for some people, and if people don't want to come back, that's perfectly okay. I mean, there's no problem with that on my end. It's just a matter of will we have enough players to fill a season? Probably, because there's always seemingly enough players that want to be interested in the NFL or whatever we do next that want to be a part of something bigger. So, and that's cool, and that's the great thing about the community here at the tours. Even if I'm not playing on the tour itself proper, I've known a lot of people through the tours and I've met a lot of people, virtually through the tours, and I think that's awesome. And I think it is a testament to what a great community it is. But moving on to another great community member, uh, who I've gotten the pleasure to know virtually and played competitions with. We move on to number 29, and that's Greg McMillan's New Orleans Saints, who are 4-10. Uh, Also, unfortunately, eliminated from the playoffs. They were ranked number 26 last week. They're down 3 spots after losing at Tampa Bay 28-23. Tough loss there, but they gave a good effort on the road. But the Buccaneers right now are just playing for that NFC South, and they're looking to clinch that and move on to the next stage here. But the Saints have nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, they've been solid. I mean, their points for have not been terrible. I mean, they've been putting decent points on the board. It's just running into some of these tough teams in the NFC and also in the AFC. That's really, the conference record of 3-7 is kind of tough. And then losing some of those divisional matchups is really what kind of cost them in the end. But at the end of the day, the Saints are going to keep marching, and they're next going to play Miami at home, who are 10-4. An opportunity there to wreak a little bit of havoc in the AFC playoff picture at home. And the Dolphins have had some issues lately, so we'll see if the Saints can take advantage of that. Uh, the Saints have lost the last 2 games, so they're definitely due for one. And we'll see if the Saints can pull one out here in week number 16. But yeah, Greg and I, it's like definitely a pixel golf football. That was a great concept. Definitely was on board with that. If that ever does come back, that would be another boon for the community. But at the end of the day, you can't. It's got to be right. It's got to be. Not everybody, is happy with the state of the way things are, and that's okay. And sometimes with some of these larger leagues, you run into some of the issues of competitive balance. And I thought this season that we just completed, or are in the process of completing, out of all the seasons that I've been a commissioner for or have run, I thought this season had the most unpredictability when it came to results. Like last year, I could probably like predict 90% or 80% who's gonna win. This year, I don't think I could have done that. This year, I think it was more around the lines of like maybe 60 or 70% probability that you'll pick all the winners right. Whereas last year and maybe 2 seasons when we first started and you knew who the great players were, you could probably like pencil it in before the week even started who was going to win. So I like to see that the low water mark for wins was 3. In years past, we only had teams that had 1 win. I love seeing the parity, and it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to incorporate going forward in any other competitions I do. And I think Greg was a real big reason for it when he instituted the handicap system that he did for Pixel Golf football. And I'm not, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I definitely took some of the elements from there and wanted to incorporate that into my competition. And Greg needed no permission from me to start Pixel Golf football. Honestly, that was a great concept, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, sometimes it runs its course, and no pun intended, but you never know. I mean, stuff can always come back, and you'll see. We'll see what happens. It's always up to the person and how they feel, and if they are really wanting to do it again. And I've noticed that with myself as well. But now we move on to number 28. After a little soliloquy there. And it's the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 5-9 and are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Zuby 97, Mr. Mr. Randy took over, and I'm really appreciative of him doing that after we had some issues with the previous ownership, just getting their games in, and unfortunately, it kind of just ended. But the Eagles are down 4 spots from number 24. They lost against the football team last week pretty heavily, 29-18. The football team is playing on a different level right now, so there's really no. I mean, they ran through a buzzsaw there. The Eagles really just did not have a shot. I mean, it's just like the metaphor of the bird flying into the building. That's basically what that was. Uh, but the Eagles will have another divisional matchup against the New York Giants at home. Giants are 12-2 right now, leading that NFC East. Eagles have a shot at playing a little bit of a spoiler role. I mean, you're going to hear that a lot with all the teams that are kind of on the outside looking in. But it's always nice to have that opportunity, to play a team like the Giants or a team that's at the top of the class. And you know, at the end of the day, it's like the Giants have been the number one ranked team for how long? And if that's a big feather in your, no pun intended, a big feather in your cap, if you're an Eagles fan, that you can, if you're the Eagles owner, you can knock them off. So, but the Eagles have lost the last 7. So 7 has not been a lucky number for them. But we'll see what Randy can do in week number 16, and maybe try work on some plays and get a little bit more familiar with the surroundings. But as an interim coach, it's got to be tough to take over for a team that you've never played in the stadium before. You're basically fresh off the street. So we'll see if Randy can get something going. As we now move up to number 27, I mentioned him a little bit earlier. It's Art Vandelay's Arizona Cardinals at 3-11. They're up 4 spots this week after a close loss at Detroit, 29-27. The Cardinals have lost their last 2. I think I just liked how they played on the road at Detroit. Like, they gave the Lions all they could handle, and as a Cardinals fan, that's what you really want to see from your team now that you're pretty much eliminated from the playoff hunt. So that was a good effort. It's just the Lions have been really turning their game on, heading toward playoff time, and are really trying to solidify the highest spot they can in the wild card picture. But right now, the Cardinals will be at home against the Colts in week number 16. They're 4-9-1. The Colts are, and I believe they still have an outside shot at an AFC South title, but they're on life support. So we'll see if that if the Cardinals can keep putting out a good effort there, and if they can knock off the Colts at home. But as it is, the Cardinals get a little bit of a bump up this week due to putting up some mondo points, as they've been struggling with the points this year, as they only have 315 after week 15, and that's by far Between them and the Eagles, I believe they're the bottom in terms of points for this year. So that's a tough situation, but at the same time, the Eagles had a shutout. They didn't. They had a no-show, so Art really doesn't have that excuse, unfortunately. But he's starting to show up now, so we'll see if that will continue heading into week number 16. As we now move up to number 26, and another new guy. It's the Dallas Cowboys at 4-10, and they are eliminated from the playoff picture. But Sky Blue Ben doesn't really care about that. He's really glad to be part of the league. He's up one spot this week from number 27, and after losing at the Giants 28-23, which, gave him a good effort. Not too bad for your second week in the league, really. Uh, to put out a really good effort against the NFC East division leaders. But next we have the Cowboys taking on the football team. Now that's going to be interesting, as the football team are 9-5 and they're fighting to keep moving up in the wild card rankings. And the Cowboys, they're just out there having a good old time. Ben's really happy to be part of that team. They've lost their last three, but you wouldn't really know it because the positivity and the attitude really seems to be upbeat around Jerry World these days. So really glad to see the attitude from the Cowboys this year change for the better. I don't think it was really bad, but Ben's really embraced the culture down there, and we'll see. Down the road, I mean, this is a building block, so you never know what can happen in the future. But that Ben, is really happy to be a part of this now, and I'm looking forward to having him around in any future seasons that I do kick off. So we'll see what happens. But I did mention a little bit about what I'm planning on doing this spring. But we'll see. Ben hasn't really, had a lot of experience in the league in terms of the actual seasons, but he was in the quarterback challenge and he was in some of the other side events. I think he was in the cup as well. So we'll see what happens. But going forward, it's really a good breath of fresh air to see Ben performing pretty decently in the league, and well deserving of a 26 ranking here. As we now move to the top 25, and the number 25 team is the Atlanta Falcons of Ruby Rock, who are 5-9. They're basically hanging by a thread in the NFC playoff picture at number 11, the number 11th ranked team right now. They have lost their last three games. There's been no change to their ranking after last week, after losing at San Francisco 26-22. That was really a must-win there to threaten the NFC South title, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And next, the Falcons will be playing at home against Detroit, who are 8-6. Now, it could be really easy for the Falcons to just decide to just shut it down for the year, and I hope they don't do that. But we'll see what happens in Week 16, as Detroit has really been revving it up, and they're showing a lot of pride in their season right now. And the Falcons, it just seems like they're kind of going south right now, and I don't know what they're going to have to do to turn this thing around, but it's not looking really good right now. So, but the Falcons stay at number 25 after putting out a respectable effort on the road, but it just wasn't enough against the 49ers team that's really trying to lock down that NFC West, which they're on the verge of doing. As we now move to number 24, it's the Kansas City Chiefs of Kike, who are 6-8. They're number 12 in the AFC, which that's basically right on the borderline of being eliminated. They're going to need a lot of help. Let's just put it that way. They're down 2 spots this week for number 22. after losing at the Chargers 28-21. Yikes. That's a tough loss on the road, but LA is a tough place to play, and the Chiefs just never really seem to get going. Uh, but next they'll be playing at home against Pittsburgh, who are 8-6. Pittsburgh is really trying to get into the playoff picture. They're right on the border right now, and they're trying to keep that spot. So that's pretty much that Pittsburgh's playing for their playoff life, whereas the Chiefs, they're playing just to stay irrelevant right now. And at this point, they've lost their last three, and I don't know if that's going to happen here. So, but kudos to Kike for giving it a good effort every week, but not looking like this is going to be the year for the Chiefs Kingdom in NFL Stableford. As we now move to number 23. And the Green Bay Packers of yours truly are at 6-8. After another tough loss at Baltimore, 28-20, they got absolutely shellacked on the road. Packers just haven't been in it. This just haven't been with it. The game plans have been pretty bad. The executions, not been very good either. They're number 8 in the NFC right now, but that's a mile away from the playoffs, as the number 7 team is 2 games ahead, which would be the Detroit Lions, who we'll talk about later. But the Packers are down 2 spots this week. They lost their last 4 games, and next they'll be playing Cleveland at home for Christmas at 6-8. So that's basically 2 6-8 teams on Christmas that are playing to stay relevant. The loser is pretty much eliminated from the playoffs, and the winner basically gets to say that they're able to live another day. And the Packers this year it wasn't there this year. I think with a lot of the other things going on in the background, and just not really playing as much. And I mean, the little I have been playing, it's been all master, and unfortunately some of these courses are a little bit tricky, and some of the conditions were not the easiest, and when you're not playing a lot, you just tend to start losing it a little bit. And I think that's what happened with the Packers this year. So it does not look like they'll be, well, we know they will not be repeating as NFC North champs, and we also know that they're probably not going to make the playoffs unless, a Christmas miracle occurs. But either way, the Packers can at least, try to finish above 500, and it can all start this week at home against Cleveland, and we'll see if that can happen. As we now move to number 22, and this is a team that, definitely probably didn't meet the expectations that they were hoping for. It's the Indianapolis Colts of B-Mel's. They're 4-9-1, 15th in the AFC, but the reason why they're still relevant is because of that AFC South picture. There's still a mathematical possibility that they can come back and somehow get into that division title picture, but it's fleeting right now. It's every week it's getting closer, and it's going to require a win, like pretty much a win-out mentality. The Colts are up 8 spots this week, though, after a big win at home against the Patriots, which really kind of put a wrench in their plans a little bit, as they were really hoping to win that AFC East, but that really knocked them down a peg, as the Colts won that 30-28. So another impressive win at home in that high-scoring dome. And next they'll be playing at the Cardinals, who are 3-11. Art can be tricky, so you don't want to look past them, especially on the road in the desert. But we'll see what happens there, as the Colts really are just playing for their playoff survival at this point. It's going to take a lot, though. I mean, they're 3 games back in the win column. Oh, they're 3 games back, period, in the South with 3 to play. So it's pretty much winner go home right now for the Colts, and we'll see what happens in week number 16. As we go now to number 21, and it's kind of fitting that, the place where they play a lot of blackjack has the Las Vegas Raiders at number 21. Chinatown is 5-9, number 14 in the AFC right now. Pretty much on the outside looking in for the playoffs, unfortunately, for Chinatown. Probably had a really one of the more memorable seasons that I can remember, like with some of the performances of upsets and things of that nature. I mean, nothing to really be ashamed of. For a guy down in the lower ranks of the challenge circuit in TGC Tours, and was able to make a lot of upsets this year over some teams that he probably had no business upsetting. But you gotta love that about this league. There's been some really shocking results, and the Raiders have been a part of some of those. And you got to give kudos to them for that, and especially for streaming every week and basically being there week in and week out to put out a solid effort. But the Raiders are down 2 spots this week after losing at Cleveland in overtime. Yeah, that pretty much probably cemented their elimination from the playoffs. As right now, the Steelers are 3 games up in the wild card race, and there's only 3 games left to play. So it's going to have to start this week against Denver at home for the Raiders, and Denver's 8-6, and they're fighting for their playoffs as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Raiders can muster up one of those big performances at home again, and maybe somehow find a way to sneak in that that seventh spot. But it's looking very unlikely right now, but we'll see. Chinatown's always going to give it a good effort. So good luck to them. Hopefully they don't have to walk the plank, but it's all going to start with another big divisional game against their rival, the rival Broncos. As we now move to number 20, a team that has also undergone an ownership change in the past couple weeks. It's the Chicago Bears. And Lucas, in this style, 99, is 5-9 after a tough loss in their debut at home against the Vikings. 31-25 in overtime. They took them all the way to overtime, and that's impressive, and that's a nice start to the ownership regime. The Bears stay exactly where they are based on that effort, as that could have really gone either way. And now they'll be playing at Seattle, who are 3-11. So the Bears likely are probably, they're hanging by a thread right now for the playoffs, as the Lions are the current 7 seed, and they're 8-6 right now, and the Bears are 5-9. So the Bears really they have to do operation run the table here, and if they can, and hope for a Lions defeat in week number 16, they'll still have a shot. But there just might be too many hurdles to overcome here for the Bears to get to the postseason. So it's looking like trying to get 8 wins is probably the goal. If the Bears can get an 8-win season, go 8-9 and move on and keep that positive momentum going into the offseason, that's probably the goal right now for them. But kudos to Lucas for stepping in and giving a good effort in their first week as owner. That's a tough thing to do, and it's a tough situation, but he almost pulled it off. So kudos to him. As we now move to number 19, here in the top 20, it's the Cleveland Browns of Tim, who are 6-8, number 13 in the AFC. So yeah, definitely hanging by a thread, but last week's win over the Vegas Raiders definitely helped after that overtime win that we just mentioned earlier, 28-22. They moved up 4 spots because of that to number 19. They were 23 last week. They'll next play the Packers in Green Bay, who are 6-8 as well. So we already know the stakes there, as it's pretty much loser goes home for that one. So we'll see. The Browns are in the AFC, so they're 2 games. They're only 2 games out the wild card, but the way things are going right now, it's almost like a winner. It's got to be a winning mentality on every game from here on out. So we'll see what the Browns can do. We'll see what Brown can do for you, but we'll see if the dog pound has what it takes to go to stay alive in the AFC playoff picture. As we now head to number 18, a team that just kind of had a little bit of a setback here. They were soaring, but now they kind of have been grounded now. It's the New York Jets of David, who are number 10 in the AFC right now. They're at 7-7. They're down 2 spots from their number 15 rank, week number 15 rank. They were 16. They're down to 18 now. They lost at Miami, which Miami can be tough, and that was an AFC East rivalry game, and unfortunately the Jets were not able to get the job done. They lost 25-24, so they got nipped, and that's tough, as that could come back and bite them in terms of a playoff berth. As that if they would have won that, they would have been right on the doorstep of that AFC playoff picture, or right on the doorstep of that wild card berth. But as they are now, they are a game behind, but now the tiebreakers are all going to come into effect, and a conference loss and even a divisional loss at this stage it doesn't help, that's for sure. As the Jets right now are really kind of behind in the conference tiebreaker, as they only have a 3-7 record now after that loss. So that's going to be tough, as every team that's above them right now has a bit better of a conference record. But stranger things have happened. They're still only 3 games out with 3 to play in the AFC East. So we'll see what happens going forward, as they will play the Jacksonville Jaguars at home in Week 16, who are 7-6-1 and currently leading the AFC South. So that's a big game for both teams, and I would say it's probably bigger for the Jets at this stage, because if they go under 500 this late in the game, I think it's probably going to be curtains for their playoff chances. So we'll see what happens going forward. But the Jets really gotta raise their altitude this week and hope that it's enough to propel them into relevancy here in the AFC playoff picture, as right now they're going to have to leapfrog a few teams that are ahead of them just to get to that 7 spot. As we now move to number 17, it's the Houston Texans of Paul. They're 7-7. They're number 11 in the AFC, so right behind the Jets. As the Jets do have the head-to-head tiebreaker on them after they beat them earlier in the season. The Texans did drop 4 spots this week from number 13. That they're losing at division rival Jacksonville 27-21 on the road. That's a tough loss, but it's not all is not lost, as I believe Paul has a shot still at winning that division. I mean, he's only 7-7, basically a half game behind. So they have the same amount of wins, but Paul's just a half game behind in the loss column. So actually 1 game behind in the loss column, and it's tied for the same number of wins. So, but Paul does have a better division record. So we'll see how this goes. This AFC South is going to probably be decided on the last week. So that was a tough loss to Jacksonville, but they did split. So it's not the end of the world, but at the end of the day, the Texans are also trying to get into the playoffs by any means necessary, and taking losses this late really doesn't help. But if you're going to lose, if you lose to a division rival, it does hurt a little bit more too. But we'll see. The Texans are a very resilient bunch this year, and they've really impressed me with how they've played many weeks. And it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled out a big performance at home against the LA Chargers, who are 10-4. That's another division leader, the AFC West division leader. by 2 games right now, and they're looking good for a playoff spot. But if Houston can hang with them and somehow get a result, either a win or a tie, would really help them. As the Jaguars having that tie is definitely a crucial thing, because if Paul was down by a game in the win column, that would be even worse. So as it is, there's still an opportunity to somehow get back to even after this week if Paul can somehow get a result and the Jaguars somehow have a stumble at the Jets. But now we head to number 16. And this is a team that's hard to predict from week to week, as they're up and down more than a Bills Mafia fan on an RV jumping through a table. It is the Buffalo Bills of Patrick, who are 8-6 right now. They're right on the borderline of being a playoff team. They're number 8 in the AFC. So they're in that position where it's excruciating for them, because they're right there, but they're just not quite in the playoff hunt. They're in the hunt, but they're just not in the playoffs right now. They're up 2 spots though from number 18 after beating Carolina at home. Took care of business there, 26-23. But next they'll be playing at the Patriots, who are 9-5 and just above them in the AFC East. Now, this is a big matchup for both teams, but the Bills have yet to win a game in their division, and that's a big problem, as divisional tiebreakers do matter when it comes to determining playoff teams. So the Bills really they have to focus on winning out at some point here. It's just going to be tough for them with any tiebreakers within their division, as they did not have a good divisional season. So, but they've been 500 against everybody else in the conference. So they've been 5-5 in the conference, but just 0-4 in their division. So so 4 of their 5 losses have been to their division. to it's just that's tough, and sometimes it's just the way it goes. But the Bills, if they can somehow beat New England on the road, you got to consider them to be a playoff team. But we'll see if that happens, because Franz is definitely trying to keep that spot and does not want to lose out on that playoff berth. But we'll see. The Bills are going to have to travel well, and they usually do. So we'll see what happens in week number 16 here for the Bills. But they're ranked number 16 this week, so that means they're right on the cusp here of being a playoff team. As we now head to another team that's right on the edge, the Denver Broncos at number 15. Austin's 8-6 right now as well, and that number 9 in the AFC, so just behind Buffalo in the hunt teams. They're down 3 spots though from number 12 after losing to Cincinnati at home by a field goal, 29-26. Boy, you would have really liked to have had that one, and now they've lost their last 2 games. So not trending in the right direction for the Broncos for trying to get into a playoff spot. And boy, it doesn't get any easier for them, as they now have to go on the road to the division rival Raiders in Las Vegas, who are 5-9 and are capable of putting up a big performance at any time at home. So the Broncos are really going to just have to focus on the fundamentals and get back to putting up some big points on the board, and hoping that that's enough, as they're right on the doorstep of a playoff spot right now. But as it is, they have the same record as the playoff team, but they just don't have the tiebreaker in their favor right now. As the team that does have the 7th spot in the AFC is this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers of Pat, who are 8-6 right now and are up 1 spot this week after beating Tennessee at home 26-22, and will next be playing at the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-8. So the Steelers have the tiebreaker. They are a playoff team right now after some ups and downs against their division. They are now there in the wild card spot. But it's not. It's a very precarious spot as they're there because of playoff tiebreakers, which is the conference percentage. They have a 667 conference winning percentage, which is what's elevating them right now over the Bills and the Broncos, who have the same record. With 3 games to play, it's still anybody's spot to win. So we'll see what happens there, as the Steelers really cannot let their guard down, and they cannot let the steel curtain uh, can't open up that curtain yet either, as they need to keep playing, like their playoff lives are depending on it. So we'll see if they can keep doing that at Kansas City. So another big, all the 8 and 6 teams in the AFC are on the road this week. So no cakewalks really from here on out, or at least for this week. So we'll see what happens as we now move to number 13. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars of Corey, who are at 7-6-1, and now the leaders of the AFC South and the number 4 seed in the AFC. They're up 4 spots for number 17 after beating their division rival Houston Texans 27-21, and they did it convincingly. And next they'll be playing at the Jets, who are 7-7. So the Jags have won their last 3 games, so they've been really grinding them out. You got to give them credit for that. They're showing great resiliency, and they've been able to bounce back from some really tough struggles early on. So that's great to see if you're a Jags fan. At the end of the day, that AFC South, it's basically a 2-team race now between the Jaguars and the Texans. So it's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching from both teams going forward here. But we'll see if the Jaguars can keep that great momentum going on the road at East Rutherford as they head to play the Jets, who are also very much alive in the AFC playoff picture. So can't take a week off, can't take a flight back to your hometown after the game for this one. You got to be all in, and we'll see if the Jaguars are, as they are now going to have a shot at maybe adding to their lead in the AFC South. As we now move to number 12. Keep on moving up here. As the numbers get smaller, the games and the teams get bigger. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of Brandon, who are number 4 in the NFC and are 8-6 and leading the NFC South. They're up 2 spots this week from number 14 last week after beating the Saints at home 28-23. A good win against the division rival. They did what they had to do there, and now they've won their last 4 games. So the Buccaneers really picked the right time to start peaking. They're hoping they didn't peak too early, but right now they're just trying to solidify their playoffs, and they're well on their way to doing so. As next they'll be playing at Carolina, who are 3-11. Now on paper this should be a win, but they don't play the games on paper. They play them on television screens or computer monitors. So we'll see if the Buccaneers can keep this winning streak going and eventually clinch that NFC South, which they are basically 1 game away from doing that, as they are 3 games up on the Falcons. So a win this week, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So good luck to the Buccaneers there. As we now move ever closer to that top 10, it's number 11. Who do we have? It's the Detroit Lions, 8-6, and CF, who has really turned this team around from the beginning of the season, has them at number 7 in the NFC and in the playoffs. At least for now, as they do not change their ranking from last week after beating Arizona at home in a very high-scoring affair, 29-27. They've won their last 3 games now as the Motor City, and they're looking pretty good for an NFC wildcard berth. Now they would like to probably move up a little bit so they wouldn't have to play the top seeded, the the number 2 seeded division winner, because the higher up you get in your seeding, the you get a little bit better of a matchup. But right now they'd be playing the 49ers on the road, which that might be a tough one. So if the Rams can, or if the Lions can keep finding a way to move up here, they might be able to play their division rivals possibly, or they could possibly win their division. So the NFC North is still not out of the picture yet for them, as they're only one game behind in that race. So things are really starting to tighten up in the NFC North here, and we'll see if the Lions can keep roaring, as they will now play at Atlanta, who are 5-9, and right now are pretty much on life support playoff wise. So that should be a good one for the Lions, but we'll see, as Atlanta can play good at home as well. So, but if the Lions can keep that winning streak going, the playoffs for them are looking like they are going to be a mere formality. As we now head to the number 10 team here in the after Week 15 power rankings, it's the New England Patriots of France. They're 9-5. They're down 4 spots this week though after losing at Indianapolis 30-28. So that's a little bit of a setback. But the Patriots still stay in the playoff hunt. They're still in the playoffs at 9-5 in the AFC. But yeah, you don't want to lose too many more, as you keep doing that and you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in. So, but the Patriots, they can see clearly that they have the Bills coming up at home in week number 16, who are 8-6, and that's a huge divisional matchup, as the winner of that is going to have some bragging rights going forward, and quite possibly an inside track on a wild card berth. So we'll see what happens, but that's a huge game for both teams. Fully expect the Patriots to bounce back, so we'll see. But the Bills are going to have to bring a big effort on the road as well. So another good old-fashioned AFC East matchup toward the end of the season. You gotta love it. As we now move to number 9, it's the LA Rams of Kevin, who are 9-5 and number 6 in the NFC. So they're in the wild card playoffs right now. They're in. They're up 1 spot this week after beating Seattle at home 25-22. They've won their last 2 games now, so the Rams they're definitely, the horns are pointing up in the right direction, so that's good for them, as they now play at Minnesota, who are 9-5. So that's a battle. That's going to be a battle between 2 teams in the playoffs right now. So that could be a playoff preview down the road. But you'd really like to get some momentum. You'd like to keep that momentum going of your winning streak, as you now have a road game against a team that you could possibly play in the divisional round. As right now, the Vikings currently have the 3 seed, and the Rams have the 6 seed. So this would be a first round. This is a first round matchup right now in the NFC playoffs. So this could be one of those psychological games where you could get in the opponent's head if you get a win on the road. As right now the Vikings, they're 9-5 as well, and yeah, this will be big, as I could see Kevin really putting out a really good effort on the road here and somehow pulling this out. But somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, unless they somehow find a way to tie. But there won't be a tie in the playoffs. As we now move to number 8, and well, it's the team that Kevin's going to be playing, the Minnesota Vikings, who are 9-5 as well, and number 3 in the NFC, and that's Andrew, who does not move anywhere. They stay at number 8 after beating the Bears at Soldier Field in overtime, 31-25, and they will now be hosting the Rams. And the Vikings also have won their last 2 games. So something's got to give here between the Vikings and the Rams. Looking forward to this one. This is going to be a good game. And really, this is a playoff preview, so get a little bit of a bonus here with the schedule, giving us a playoff game early. Now, it's not technically it's not a playoff game, but this could have ramifications for down the road, so or implications for down the road for both teams, as uh, the Vikings are trying to stay at the top of the NFC North and get that home game, whereas the Rams they're looking to keep pace as well in the AFC West, as they're still only 2 games out with 3 to play. So lots of good stuff going on with that matchup. That should be a juicy one. As we now move to lucky number 7, the Los Angeles Chargers of Mike Rubino. They're 10-4. They're number 3 in the AFC. They're leading the AFC West by 2 games right now. They are up 2 spots this week from number 9 after defeating the Chiefs 28-21 at home. So that's a really solid win there against the division rival. When you can put it on them like that at home, you're definitely going in the right direction. And next they'll be playing at Houston, who are 7-7 and in a fight for their playoff life right now. So the Chargers can play a big role in this AFC South race if they can somehow find a way to knock off the Texans on the road. The Chargers definitely they've been at the top of these rankings already this season, and I would not put it past them to make a big run here in the next couple weeks and somehow move up these rankings a little bit more. But right now, number 3 in the AFC is not a terrible place to be, as right now they will be hosting a wild card game against the New England Patriots, which Franz is a tough customer, and he always turns it on when the pressure is on. So we'll see. Right now, the Chargers are just behind the Dolphins for the number 2 seed, as the Dolphins have a little bit better of a conference winning percentage. So I think that's the goal for the Chargers, is if they can't get that number 1, to try to get that number 2 seed. But we'll see, as nothing is clinched yet in terms of seeding in the playoff picture right now. As we now move to number 6 in these rankings, who do we have? It's the Washington football team. They've made a big jump here in recent weeks. As they've won their last 2 games, they're up 1 spot this week from number 7 to number 6, as they're 9-5 right now and number 5 in the NFC. Zach is putting up points like gangbusters right now. The football team is really putting up big numbers. They're up there with the Ravens right now, and I believe they're tied for second overall in terms of points scored. So that's awesome, and that's a big reason why the football team has had their resurgence after putting a big whooping on the Eagles at Philly 29-18. They'll next get to go to their other division rival, the Dallas Cowboys, who are 4-10. So the football team have won their last 2. They're playing great offense right now. They're all over the place and definitely looking to move up somehow. But right now they have the top wild card in the NFC, and they would have to catch their division rivals, the Giants, somehow with 3 games to go and 3 to play. With 3 to play, I mean, basically, if the Giants win, they clinch the division this week. So the football team, probably the best they're going to be able to do is settle for that number 5 spot in the NFC. I don't think they want to drop from there, as right now they would be playing the Buccaneers on the road, and I think that's a really good matchup for them. As right now they have a better record than the Buccaneers. I'm not going to go back into the past history of their matchups together, but on paper, it looks like a really good matchup for the football team. So if they can keep things going, it's looking pretty good for them. And they're moving up these rankings, and they're definitely showing why. As we now move to the top 5, Who do we have in the 5th spot this week? As the wheel spins, we end on the San Francisco 49ers, who are 11-3 and number 2 in the NFC right now. Jason stays the same this week. They don't move up and they don't move down in the rankings after beating the Falcons at home 26-22. Taking care of another big game there to go one step closer to clinching the NFC West. They're on the cusp of doing that as they're 2 games up now with 3 to play. Next they'll go at Tennessee, take another trip across the country to the Titans, who are 3-11. It's a tough game. That's not. Their records are mirror images of each other, but the Titans can play up to their competition, so you don't want to take them too lightly. But we'll see if the 49ers can build a little bit of momentum here toward the end of the season and clinch that NFC West. But right now, the Rams are still on their heels, 2 games back. So it is still a 2-horse race there in that NFC West. And also the 49ers want to stay in that number 2 spot and possibly move it back to that number 1 spot in the NFC. So we'll see. But right now they'd be playing the Lions at home, which is a favorable matchup on paper, but you'd always like to try to get that first round bye if you can. And right now, there's still 3 chances to try to do that. But that's the number 5 team this week, and now we head to the final 4. Who do we have? It's the Miami Dolphins of Cade, who are 10-4 at number 2 in the AFC right now. They do not move up or down this week. They stay at number 4. They won against the Jets at home, 25-24 in that nail biter. And next they'll play at New Orleans, who are 4-10. So that's a game you don't want to look past if you're the Dolphins, as you're starting now to build a little bit of momentum. You're holding on to that number 2 seed in the AFC. And right now, if you were to end the playoffs today, you would be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Now the Steelers are... The AFC playoffs are going to be a bloodbath no matter how you look at it. You're going to have teams in that playoff bracket that I think any one of those games can go either way, and I think that can be said for both conferences. I think these playoffs are going to be some of the best that we've ever seen, as I think all the games are going to be very competitive, as they should be, between the best 14 teams in the league. But we'll see. The Dolphins and the Saints are playing for pride right now, and they have mirror image records of 10-4 and 4-10, and I think the Saints ran into some tough luck earlier in the season, and I don't think that their record may not show how well they played at points this season, as I think the Saints ran into some tough competition early on and did not get the wins to show for it. But we'll see if the Dolphins can keep on floating above the water, and if they can keep on maintaining that AFC East lead. As right now, they got the Patriots right behind them, who are 1 game out, and you got the teams behind them battling this week. I believe the Patriots and Bills are playing in Week 16, so this could be a chance for the Dolphins to get a little bit of space between them and their division rivals. But it all starts on the road at New Orleans for them this week. As we now go to number 3, who's the bronze medal this week on the podium? Well, it's none other than the Baltimore Ravens, who are 10-4. Eddie is number 5 in the AFC right now. They did not move up or down this week in the rankings. They stay right where they are after that whooping of the Packers at home, 28-20. So now they've won their last 2 games, and now they get to play at Cincinnati, and this is basically for the AFC North title, in my opinion. as Cincinnati is 11-3. I think the winner of this basically has the inside track on the division, and it's going to be a battle, and I'm looking forward to seeing it as the Ravens have. I think they've already beaten the Bengals, and this would be them trying to go for the sweep. And this would be impressive if they were able to do that. But right now, the Ravens would play the Jaguars, or likely the winner of the AFC South, whoever that may be, whether it's the Jaguars or the Texans. So the Ravens are in a pretty enviable spot right now in that fifth spot, very similar to what the football team is in the NFC. They'll get to play a division winner that's got a lower record than them. So the fifth spot is maybe not the worst place to be if you're the Ravens. Even if you do lose to the Bengals this week and somehow do not win the division, all is not lost. But as it is right now, they have a 2-game cushion in the wild card. So the Ravens are looking pretty good to being in the playoffs. They're looking like it's going to be a formality here. They pretty much just have to win at least one more game of their last 3. So good luck to the Ravens. We'll see if they can pull the upset on the road at the Bengals, who coincidentally are the number 2 ranked team this week, as they are 11-3 and number 1 in the AFC, as Jason does not move up or down this week after defeating Denver on the road 29-26, and now they've won their last 4 games. So the Bengals and the Ravens are on a collision course in week 16, and I'm here for it. With that said, we now head to the number 1 team after week 15. As we know, the Bengals, we have all the superlatives we've already said about them. We know they're an excellent team, and they will be a great representative for the AFC going forward in that number 1 spot. But now we know who the number 1 team is overall in these rankings. For yet another week, it's the guy we all know and love, everybody's favorite Don Tagrocket. The New York Giants, who are 12-2 and number 1 in the NFC. Best record in the league, and now the number 1 team again in the power rankings after another impressive win at home against Dallas, 28-23. And next, that's their 12th win in a row. So they haven't lost a game since week 2. Which, believe it or not, I mean, that's just an impressive run right there. I don't care what kind of a league you're in, if you can win 12 games in a row, you're doing something big. So kudos to Don there, and good luck to him next week as he plays at Philadelphia, who are 5-10, and are basically going to have their second game in the league be a welcome by Don Tagrocket. The G-Men, I know, are not going to take them lightly, as they do respect all their opponents, and they say as much in the posts every week. And at Philadelphia can be a little bit of a tricky place to play, but I think the Giants will be up for that challenge, and I fully expect them to put out a good effort and try to stay on top of these power rankings, as I believe if they win, they will clinch the NFC East. So that will be impressive in and of itself, as they would be the first team to clinch a division. Actually, it might be the second, as the Buccaneers have a chance at clinching this week as well. So with that being said, it's the New York Giants once again at number 1 after week 15 in this week's NFL Stableford Power Rankings show. This has been Lefty79, the commissioner of the NFL Stableford League, thanking you for listening and watching and joining me for this broadcast. I really appreciate all the comments and all of the feedback on these shows. apologize for the lateness a little bit here, but I'm hoping it's worth the wait. And I think I have another one left in the can for this week as well, for the After Week 16 show, which I'm going to begin working on tonight. So hopefully I'll have that out as soon as possible for the week number after Week 16 show, which will be right after this broadcast. But I want to thank you for joining me for this one. Again, it's the New York Giants at number 1. We'll see if they can keep that streak going. As will somebody knock them off, or will there be some bigger movers down the list a little bit here after Week 16? We'll find out, as we got some really great games coming up to recap in Week 16. Thank you for watching, and I will see you down the road. Take care, everybody.